Hey guys, okay, I was going to take you on a tour of the garden today, but it is cold and windy and still pretty snowy, and tomorrow we're supposed to get either snow or rain, and so it's not going to be a good day for shooting outside, so we are going to improvise. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to take pictures of the beds, the main areas, and then I'm going to show you inside what I'm going to put in these beds. Ooh, look at the sun's coming out a little bit. She does love me. Okay, now that I have pictures of all the beds outside, and I'm talking with my hands again, I am going to draw up pictures of my beds on paper and that I can write all over. All right, let's get that done. Okay, so this is what I end up with. I end up with planters, west side, backyard. That's the planter, kind of how big it is, and kind of an idea of what I want to do with it. And I do this for every area of my yard. I put them in page protectors. I just got them sitting on a hook right here so I can look at them. When I'm pretty sure I know what they are, I'll put them in a little binder, and then when I go outside to plant, I'll just take this outside with me and kind of reference it. Not that I'll stick to it 100% because mama changes her mind sometimes, but it's kind of an idea of what I'm going to do. So let's compare the picture of the bed outside and the area outside to the plan for it for spring. Okay, so that long bed is this west side planter in the backyard. It is 3 feet long and it is 16 foot wide. It's got two sections. That lower section is only a foot off the ground. The back section is 2 feet off the ground. And I can usually get quite a bit of food into this planter. So what my plan for it is, so this is the deck where I was standing taking the picture. There it is. It ends at the chicken coop. The bottom, where all these X's are, I plan for these to be peppers. So each one of these X's is a pepper plant. I plant my peppers in pairs so they kind of hold hands. So I'll do two of the same varieties. In the middle of the bed, I have this patch of green onions that comes back every year and that I reseed every year. And I also have snapdragons that self-sow. So this middle part I like to leave kind of open for flowers and pollinators. I also tuck flowers and pollinators in on all the ends. So I plan on having some bachelor button kind of over here on the end over here. I've got a little bit of an asparagus patch right here with some hollyhock. I'm going to add some sunflowers onto this end. When I go up top, I'm going to run tomatoes. These are paste tomatoes. I think I'll do about 8 or 9 of them along the back. There's a cattle panel here, so they'll actually grow up the cattle panel. And in front, I'm going to put the onions across the front. Some of the onions. And then I'm also going to sow some Mayflower beans in here, interplanted among these, and then a big section right in the middle. They're going to flower really pretty for pollinators, and I'm going to let them dry out on the vine as a dried chili bean. So that is the plan for this space. The second area of my garden is this back coop space. There's that west bed we just looked at. There's an opposite one on the east side. We're not looking at that right now, but this is the back coop area. So back here is my coop. Standing in front of the coop, I have 2 green stalk planters. I'm going to do lettuce in one and maybe a couple herbs or things. And I'm going to try beets in the second one. So that's what's going into these green stalks. There's a whole bunch of herb pots around here. I'm not going to go ahead and label all those right now. But I do know that I want to add some salvia in the ground right here. There's a little half fence right here. I want to put borage, lemon balm, and hyssop all back in around here. I want to put a borage plant over in this corner. Those are all herbs that can handle the chickens picking at them. And then I'm going to add a nasturtium and a center cut squash into the ground right here, or into the top of this planter, or into the bottom corner of this planter to grow up the chicken coop. Okay, that was Libby at the door. She brought me my race shirt for tomorrow. Woo! More on that later. Okay, so where was I? Right here. Herbs around the chicken coop. Things to climb up the chicken coop. Nasturtium. You have to get a climbing nasturtium. There are two kinds of nasturtium. One will make like a mound, and the other one will climb up. So you need a climber. Center cut squash will definitely climb up. And then where this dotted line is, I'm going to put some kind of little fence here. Nothing really big, not in particular to keep the chickens out, but maybe to keep the dogs out of the chickens. And when I come back in here, I'm kind of redoing this whole area. The compost pile's back in the corner. There is a little flower bed here that I'm probably going to redo. I'm going to put some yarrow in the ground, and I'm going to put a Long Island cheese pumpkin back here and try and grow it up the trellis in the pergola, because I've seen pictures of people with hanging pumpkins, and I think it's so cool. So that might happen. All along this little fence I'm going to put up, I'm going to put some cosmos. And then back in this corner, this is the east raised bed. It's hard to get back in the corner of this raised bed, so I'm not going to put any like crops here. I'm going to throw some Dara and some zinnia. I'm going to put another center cut squash to go this way. I'm going to put some sunflowers, and then I'll put a center cut squash in the ground right by there's a pole right here, and some of those climbing nasturtiums. So I'll have a center cut squash here and here and here paired with a nasturtium to grow up and over this whole pergola, and it's super cool. Back corner, I also have a cattle panel back here. I'm gonna draw sunflowers straight up with beans, and I think I'm gonna do this Flavor Star bean. It is a new one that I must have thought looked cool. I bought 2 packets of it, and it is a climbing green bean to eat fresh. So I'm going to try and do more pickled beans, more dill beans. So that's this back corner of the yard. Okay, so now we're just going back. There's the coop and compost back there. That's where we were just looking. We're going down this side. This is the east side raised bed. It is 2 foot wide, and right now it's 16 feet wide, but it's going to be 22 feet wide. This area over here is by my driveway. That's where we're doing some construction. So this bed is going to look a little bit different this year. But for the main part, I'm going to put Cosmos Zinnia sunflowers, and I'm going to add the 1,500-year-old cave bean. It's a runner bean. It looks like it would be really good for chilies maybe. I'm going to grow that back here. I like to grow a dry bean back in areas that are hard to get to, because I can just plant it and forget it and then just harvest it all at the end. So that's what's going to go on back in that corner because it's a little difficult to get to. The rest of this, all these X's are heirloom tomatoes. I'm going to do 14 plants, and I got 22 feet. I trim them to one single stem, and I grow them up a trellis, up the fence. In between them, I'm going to sow some carrots. Those usually don't take off until after the second half of the summer, but that worked out really good last year. And then in front of them, I'm going to do a row of head lettuce and spinach. Then right on here on the end, I haven't quite figured out how I'm going to do this yet. This is where it's going to end. I don't know if it's going to be open or if I'm going to have another little trellis bar here, but I'm going to try and find a way to do Minnesota midget melons on the end. Okay, this is the new driveway raised bed. So right over here is that big long 22-foot bed. On the side over here are sheds. And this is the new bed. It's going to be roughly 8 feet long. That's going to be on the other side of that fence. So this back wall is a fence, and I can climb up it. I'm going to put 4 heirloom tomatoes with interplanted carrots, just like on the other side of the fence. And then I'm going to put a Kajari melon right here. And I'm going to have those Minnesota midget melons on the end. And then in front of this, I am just going to grow zinnias. I might put some calendula in here. It'll be all flowers. It's a new part of my garden. I want to make sure I attract pollinators over here. Depending on how this end goes, I might add like a pot collection to the end, or I might leave it open, kind of just depending on how I figure that out. Looking at the driveway, this is one of my most favorite spots. There was totally wasted space that now houses so much food. So this is the back corner of my house. I park my van up over here. I have got a trellis system right here, and I put planters here so I can grow things up the house if I want to. I think this year I'm just going to grow a couple buckets of smaller potatoes, either fingerling potatoes or red potatoes. I'm not sure. And then I have a 6-foot bed. You see there's a matching one over here. These two beds, they're both 6 foot long and 2 foot wide. And I'm going to grow 4 tomato plants, cherry tomatoes, and I'm going to grow dragon tongue beans in the middle, in the front of them to kind of hang over the edge. Now this one is a little bit different than this one because there is a window well in here, so that's only going to restrict me to 4. I lose a little bit of space in the middle. Coming down here, I have got my little block planter wall with herbs and things in it, and on top I've got a 12-foot planter that's about 18 inches wide and about 18 inches deep. I have to do things in here that have shallow roots, and I keep experimenting every year trying to find the right thing. So this year, these are things I'm considering trying: spinach, broccoli, cabbage, kale, or chard. I might put a couple of each of those in there and just see what works well. I don't know. I might try something totally different. Who knows? And then I think I wrote buckets of kale here. I've got some space here where I can put some planters underneath. So kale planters would look really nice underneath there. Second 6-foot bed over here. This has also got a trellis, cherry tomatoes going up it. I'll do 5 of them here. And then I'm going to grow celery in the front row. And then right here is this raised bed that my son actually made with his grandpa. And I'm going to put sunflowers in the back, tall, full-size ones. And then I have these really pretty dwarf sunspot flowers that are going to go here. And I think I'm going to do this middle one with snaps. And I don't get a ton of sun here, but I get enough that it'll be really pretty for pollinators on the side of the house. Okay, driveway was over here. We're moving around the front of the house. This is my front sidewalk that leads up to my covered porch. I've got 2 big planters on either side here. I've got alyssum planted on the ground, and it's actually still there, so that's really cool. It's going to grow in along those corners and soften them up a little bit. That looks really nice. There's hydrangeas in both of these buckets, and I'll probably plant some begonias in there. They worked really well last year. Up my sidewalk, I'm considering doing calendula up the sides just for something pretty. Let's look at the porch real quick. Up on the porch, I have 1, 2, 3 railing baskets. I'm putting the pansies in those this year. I've got 2 big pots at the top of the stairs where those red tornado ivy geraniums are going to go. And then I also have 2 hanging baskets, which I'm going to bring the ferns out of the house and put those there. This whole bed is in front of the porch, down on the ground. So the porch is fairly well up in the air, about 5 feet up in the air. And so I can grow things up the sides of it. So in this front here, I'm going to do pole beans up the front. I've got a gorgeous double clematis right here. And then on this side, I'm going to do cucumbers with zinnia in front up the side of here. And then I've got this new area right here where I kind of bumped this out behind the bushes and added some potting soil. I'm not sure what I'm going to do there. I want something big there. I might put the ranunculus corms there, or I might put some delphinium starts in there. Not quite sure yet. If you follow our sidewalk, in the corner, I've got like a little trellis here where our honeysuckle grows both ways all the way down. And at the end of each, there is a peony bush that has never bloomed because my husband mows it over with the lawnmower every spring. Both of them, every spring. So I've got them marked. Hopefully one year I'll see them. Once this starts to grow up a little bit, I'll fill some things here in this little triangle. And then these bushes wrap around the corner of our house. And in here I have got lilies, and this is all open for me to do something with. Okay, this is over on the west side of my house. So that sidewalk comes around the front and curls back this way. That bush line also continues right on down here. But I can grow a couple things in the front, and then this back thing right here is raised up behind the bushes a little bit. We built that up kind of like a berm. And then I have got steps I can walk up, and I can handle the stuff up here. So I'm going to add some white irises that I got up here. I've got some purple ones. I've got phlox in the middle with a bird bath in the second. Okay, so this is the AC unit. That's where we ended up last time. There's a little decorative fence in front of it. This is the sidewalk, and this is a flagpole. So this is that open area before the bushes pick back up. Bushes / clouds. So I'm going to add some more lobelia, some basil. I'm going to add some other lupines on this side so they kind of have like a two set and they're kind of mirroring this area. And then I'm going to have to add some flowers back here, either some of those scabiosas or painted daisies. I'm not sure which. I'm going to attempt to grow the cucamelon up my flagpole. Whether that works or not, I have not been lucky in the past, but...
We have a flagpole at Kikiwaka?
We do. Here is some oregano. I'm going to add some rosemary, and I do have wild geranium. Behind this bush line, we built up this bed last year in the fall. Brent helped me build that. And I think I've kind of decided I'm going to do it flowers. Everybody that I asked for advice kind of felt the same way. I could put my ranunculus in here in the spring. Or I could just do peas along the back and put a little trellis up and then move my zinnias out here after the frost date. I'm not sure how I'm going to do that. I also have a teepee here for beans. And in the back, I have got a little ladder going up my house. I'm going to put purple hyacinth bean in the back there. The next section just finishes up that long wall with the so the flagpoles over here with these bushes. And what I have is like a little rectangle bed back here. I've got, I call it a trellis, but it's actually an old baker's rack. And this is where I'm going to try and get that tithonia to grow and grow up really high and then over these stairs a little bit. I'm going to add some sunflowers. And then I've got 3 larger planters where I'm going to add delphinium and then rosemary, marguerite chamomile, and basil up on the corner. I have snaps that grow down here. I'm going to add some alyssum. And that'll finish out that section. This fence line I've been working on for a little while, and I have got existing coneflowers that I've been planting. It's one of the very first things I planted. This space right here is really only maybe 6 inches wide, maybe 7 or 8 inches wide. And I started planting coneflowers and they keep multiplying. So I've got a whole bunch of existing coneflowers along my fence. And then I'm also going to grow sunflowers. I didn't do this last year, but I have done it in the 2 years past, and I love it. It looks so pretty. It's a big, huge wall of sunflowers. Underneath them, I've got these coneflowers, and I'm going to fill in with snapdragons, and I'm going to add some runner beans to it, and it is fantastic. The last area is my big in-ground garden. It is 30-foot long and 10-foot wide. It's actually in the strip between the sidewalk and the road. So this is kind of how I'm going to set it up. I don't like it to be just giant rows. I did plant my garlic over here in the fall. So I'm going to plant honey nut and butterbush squash. They're compact winter squash. I'm going to plant them in between this garlic. So as this garlic grows and comes out, these will start to get bigger. And then I'm going to put pea teepees in both corners. I'll have, maybe, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 sticks up in the air making pea teepees. And then right down the middle, I'm going to do my summer squash. So I am doing 2 slick picks. This is a yellow squash that I got from Haas Tools. I'm going to do 2 cocazelles, which is kind of like a stripy squash. And then I'm going to do 2 Nimba zucchini. So I'll have yellow, striped, and green. And then I will have some chard plants in the front. I like to grow chard in my in-ground garden because it's a good trap crop. It takes all the earwigs from everywhere and they come here. And it looks really pretty too. So that'll kind of put me in half. This corner over here is going to have winter squash. On this half over here, I'm going to do spaghetti squash. And that gives me kind of 2 sections that are kind of going to mirror each other because it's important for me that this looks pretty too. So in the back, I'm going to do a double row of cold hardy things. So these are all the things I'm working on getting outside right now. Cabbages, Brussels, broccoli, all that kind of stuff. I'm going to put those in. And then in the front, I'm going to put my onions in. And then I'm just going to kind of work in as the weather gets warmer. I'll add a double row of beans on either side. And the last thing I'll do is in the middle, and whatever space is left, I'll work in all my peppers. And then at some point, when I go to pull up all this cold hardy stuff, I will have room to add some more, another round of beans or something that's a small term thing. So that's my plan for the in-ground garden. Okay, so then I got all of my pages just on this little hook, and I kind of hook it over by my thinking chair, and I will keep adding things to this. So what I did is I went downstairs to my garden and I wrote down all the things that are not on this plan yet. Do you see how many of those are? That means I started too many seeds. Let me turn you around and let you look at it. Okay, so I went through my seed drawer for things that are going to get direct seeded outside, and I went through all of my plants that I've got started, and here's what I've kind of come on here. At my mom's house this year, I am going to do pumpkins and watermelon and beans. So the things I knew that were going at her house, I just wrote over here. On this side are the things that I want to fit into my garden, but don't have a home yet. So I've got rattlesnake and Christmas lima beans. I've got that salvia, bee balm, daisies, the agassiz, and all these things will find a home. I'll just kind of stick them in. A lot of them are flowers. I'll move them into different places. They're herbs. But as I'm sitting here, if I think of a good spot, I'll go ahead and put them in. Some of them might end up in containers too, where I can move them around the landscape. But I will keep this with this just kind of stuck in the back of it so that I know what I still have to find a home for. Okay, I hope you enjoyed my improvised garden tour. And it will be really nice to look back at this when things start growing and see a before and after spots. So I'll try and keep doing them in those sections kind of as we go. All right, guys, have a great day. Bye.